River, Doug Polk bets all in. Are you really calling here with ace high or a hand like pocket eights? That'd be a big call, and this is where it gets really, really difficult to play these scenarios because it is hard to play the fundamentally sound GTO strategy. Hello everyone, I am Jonathan Little for PokerCoaching.com, back with another hand from the High Stakes Feud between Doug Polk and Dale Negreanu. They are playing 200, 400, no limit Texas Hold'em. Let's take a look at this pretty interesting spot where we have Negreanu raising it up with ace-queen offsuit. Doug Polk 3-bets with, let's take a look, king 10 of hearts. And Negreanu puts in the 4-bet, which is perfectly fine and standard. You may think, oh, do I really want to be 4-betting a hand like ace-queen? Because if I get re-raised, it's pretty tough. Like, yes, you do. Ace-queen can extract a lot of value. We have charts available for you for free at pokercoaching.com/HUNL, so you do not have to guess about what to do in somewhat standard pre-flop scenarios. Background to Doug Polk, he can't really fold this hand. This hand flops reasonably well, so he has a pretty easy call. Okay, flop's gonna come, queen, queen 6, and this is where this hand gets very interesting because Doug Polk elects to lead for about, what is this? 26 or 27% pot, something like that. So tiny lead, very interesting. This third pot, I don't know what it is. I can't do math on the fly, everybody. Sorry. This is a spot where Doug Polk is electing to lead. And he's done this quite a few times in these 4-bet pots. And it's interesting to note that like if the preflop ranges are substantially different than what looks to be the general GTO preflop strategy, you should probably be leading almost none. But if your opponent is playing a reasonably strong GTO preflop strategy, turns out this play is actually fine. As we can see here on queen, queen 6, 2 hearts, Doug Polk should be leading some portion of the time with king 10 suited, and about 70% of the time when he does have king 10 of hearts. So a pretty cool spot. Take a look at all these hands he can lead, which is pretty interesting, right? This is a spot where, like, me as a regular full ring, no limit Texas Hold'em player would not think he should be leading much at all. But turns out Doug Polk should be leading about 37% of the time, which is a lot. So in queen, queen 6, the GTO solver has Doug Polk leading ace queen a lot, king queen a decent amount, really a lot of the queens, and a bunch of draws and marginal made hands. Cool strategy, right? So when he leads, what should Daniel Negreanu do with his ace queen? I want you to pause the video right now and type in the comments what you would do with ace queen in this spot facing this bet. Would you fold? Would you call? Would you raise small? Or would you go all in? Did you do it? Good. You're going to find that interacting and really thinking about what you would do in these spots will go a long way to making you a substantially better poker player, which is our goal here. We actually have a bunch of quizzes over at my training site, pokercoaching.com. You can actually get free access to it at pokercoaching.com/free, so you can try out the quizzes, test yourself, and get immediate feedback from my hand-selected group of world-class professionals who will help you improve your poker skills. So make sure you take advantage of that. This is a very cool spot where Negreanu elects to call. And while his exact hand is not all that interesting, notice here ace-queen should call literally every time. Take a look at this strategy. He's not really folding all that often against a small bet, which makes sense because he's in position. Notice even stuff like ace-high is calling sometimes, right? Any 6 is calling, any pair is calling. But take a look at this all-in range. This all-in range is mostly pocket jacks and pocket 10s without a heart. Kind of cool to think about. Why would we want to be jamming in this scenario with pocket jacks or pocket 10s without a heart? Well, it turns out you really, really, really want to get protection in this scenario with these hands. And yeah, whenever you get called, you're not loving it. But whenever your opponent does fold, they're folding out hands that all have a decent amount of equity. Like right here, right? I mean, notice that if Doug Polk does have any of these draws, he's going to be in a pretty miserable spot. Notice whenever you have jacks or tens without the heart, it essentially means that Doug Polk could have all of these flush draws in this vicinity that you do not block, which are hands you really, really, really want to get protection against. So very, very cool scenario. All right, Negreanu does just call, though, as he should. Turn comes the Jack of Hearts, and Doug Polk goes for a very, very interesting check. And this is where the solver starts to go all over the place. Let's take a look at this. Notice here, King 10 suited, many of these have a heart, are betting either gigantic for all in some portion of the time, betting small some portion of the time, or checking some portion of the time. And this is a spot where King 10 of hearts really does mix it up. Notice here, most of the betting range, even on this heart, are mostly trips, under pairs with a heart, whereas the full houses and the flushes mostly slow play in this scenario. So pretty cool scenario. On the turn, on the turn, so Polk checks. What does Negreanu do? He elects to check it back. And you may think, why in the world would you check here with the ace-queen? And it turns out, solver doesn't check with the ace-queen. Solver goes for a bet. And it's worth noting that Negreanu has said in many interviews that he thinks he's generally playing well. What the is going on?
I mean, that works.
You
have to start every session flopping a turning a straight with a club when he makes a flush. What the dude? I have trips, he has flush. I flop a straight, I turn a straight, he makes a flush. I have holy dude.
And you may look at this and say, oh, solver bets here the vast majority of the time with the ace-queen, so he's not playing well. However, checking this scenario loses almost no EV compared to betting. So I think in reality what Negreanu is saying is he's not really making any overly costly errors, which, you know, so far does somewhat seem to be true. I was actually reviewing some of his hand/rant videos where he was making some sort of decent errors on the turn in the river with like medium strength made hands at the beginning of the sessions, but it seems like for the most part he actually is not making any sort of gigantic blunders. That said, ace-queen in this scenario bets virtually every time, as does aces and kings. And you may look at this range and say, do you really want to be betting this if your opponent is checking with some flushes? And the answer is yes, because your opponent's just not always going to have a flush. It's important to realize, just because this is a setup hand does not mean that you have to be deathly afraid of this spot, right? It turns out pocket aces is happy to go for the bet. Also, kind of interesting to note that Negreanu should be betting tiny on this board. Let's go back over here to this scenario. Negreanu should be betting 20% pot with a hand like pocket aces or as ace-queen, which would be, what, call it $7,000. Even when we are somewhat shallow with only 65% pot behind in these 4-bet pots, it turns out you can still go for small bet sizes. This time, though, Negreanu lets it go check, check. On the river, Doug Polk makes the all-in, which solver confirms is definitely the right play the majority of the time. He could also bet small, which makes sense to some extent, because if you think Negreanu's check-check range is kind of marginal, you don't want to go all-in every time, because quite often he is going to have a somewhat marginal hand in this scenario. But this is a spot where you can either go all-in or bet small with the flush. And, you know, classic cooler spot. No way Negreanu can fold this ace-queen. However, I did want to show you here, if we look at Negreanu's river strategy, look at what he's supposed to call with here. He's supposed to call with flushes, of course. Full houses, of course. Pocket kings. Whatever trips he has, notice he doesn't really have any trips, but you see they're all called 100% of the time. But let's take a look at some of these weaker hands that are supposed to call a decent chunk of the time. Notice pocket nines calls 40% of the time when you have it. Pocket eights calls 40% or 70% of the time when you have it on queen, queen, 6, jack, 4. You really finding a call for the all-in bet here with pocket eights? I don't know. What about ace-king? Ace-king offsuit, presumably with a heart, of course, finds the call in this scenario some portion of the time. Is it ace-king with a heart? Not entirely sure. Yeah, ace-king high is calling some portion of the time. Notice all the Jack X calls every single time, right? If he does have a hand like Jack 10, that calls every time. Take a look down here. Even some hands like Ace 10, when he does have them, every once in a while finds a call. Ace 6 calls basically every time, right? And I don't think many people are actually calling. I mean, put yourself in Negreanu's shoes here with Ace 6 or Pocket 8s. Let's go back and replay this hand, okay? So, he put in the 4-bet pre-flop, got called, flop goes lead call, which you would do with your Pocket 8s. Would you do it with Ace 10? I mean, I guess if you have the Ace of Hearts, you can. You call, turns to Jack of Hearts, it goes check, check. River, Doug Polk bets all in. Are you really calling here with Ace High or a hand like Pocket 8s? That'd be a big call, and this is where it gets really, really difficult to play these scenarios because it is hard to play the fundamentally sound GTO strategy. I know a lot of people think, oh, just follow the charts, it's easy. But it's only easy when you have the charts right in front of you. And even then, if you go back to this chart, you see there are like a bunch of hands that are present for a very, very, very tiny frequency. And it's hard to know what to do in these scenarios. It really, really is. And this is why Heads Up is a very, very difficult game. And so far, Doug Polk's been playing great. He's on a roll, on a bit of a heater. It's always nice whenever you are playing well and running well. And that is what is happening for Doug Polk right now. I actually had the pleasure of commentating session number 18 for the GGPoker stream. If you check that out, or if you want to check it out, you can check it out at youtube.com/GGPoker. Click on their videos, go to session number 18. They had a long 5-hour session, and it was pretty interesting. There was one stretch of time where Negreanu ran into trips 7 times in a very short period of time, like 45 minutes.
What the f***'s going on?
Yeah, that works.
It's brutal when that happens, and you have to understand that at some point in your poker career, you will run worse than you ever thought possible. Now, of course, you're playing Heads Up, No Limit Hold'em. This is the Cadillac of poker, after all. There's going to be some swings. You should know that when you go into the game. But all you can do is show up, remain sane, play your session, play well. After the session, study a lot, improve on whatever mistakes you made, and don't make the same mistakes in the future. And if you do that over and over and over and over again, you will be perfectly fine. Of course, he's still playing against Doug Polk, who's a very, very world-class heads-up player, so he's in a mess. That said, I have full confidence that Negreanu is going to continue playing the 25,000 hands. A lot of people in the chat said, oh, he's got to quit for sure. Don't think he's quitting. Negreanu is generally pretty... he generally does what he says he's going to do. And I think he's going to play out the full 25,000 hands. I actually expect his skill level to get closer to Doug Polk's as they continue playing, because in reality, Doug Polk's probably not going to get a whole lot better at No Limit Hold'em between now and the end of this High Stakes Feud, but Negreanu probably will get a whole lot better because Negreanu had a lot more to potentially learn, right? And from what I understand, he is studying, he's working with people to improve his skills, and that's going to make the game get more and more competitive as it continues moving forward. That said, Negreanu's down a decent amount right now. He's going to need to catch some run good in order to grind it back up.
Holy.
That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click like, click subscribe. There's a little notification bell you can click that will notify you whenever I post a new video. So if you like this content, do all those things for me. I would appreciate it. Good luck in your games, have fun, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more strategy lessons, pre-flop charts, and interactive quizzes, make sure you get your free membership to pokercoaching.com right now at pokercoaching.com/free. I'll talk to you next time.